Another quarter is in the books, and now we have Nikolaj Sørensen, CEO of Orexo, with us. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you for having us.
I think we could start off if you could share some highlights that has taken place during the quarter.
It's been a very exciting quarter from our development pipeline, where we have reported positive data in semaglutide, which is a GLP inhibitor, and that's used for diabetes treatment, obesity treatment, and potentially many other diseases. We also signed a very large partnership with the American authority BARDA, where they will award us up to $51 million, or 480 million Swedish kronor, over the development period for a project we call OX390, which is for treatment of adulterated opioid overdose. On top of that, we're making pretty good progress in our other pipeline projects, OX124, which our overdose, naloxone overdose rescue medication. Everything is going according to plan, and we still plan for refiling with the FDA next summer. And then we have OX640, where we have made, which is our epinephrine treatment for anaphylaxis, so that's when you get an allergic shock. We have made the first batches in commercial scale, and we're now analyzing that in parallel, looking into this market and how we can optimize the value of that asset. Then we have, from a financial perspective, it's been a little more mixed quarter, and we had a lot of foreign exchange headwind with the Swedish krona strengthening, in particular compared to last year. We also had some inventory effects in the US, but all in all, we're quite comfortable with the guidance we provided to the market and expect to have a full year positive EBITDA.
And if we take a look at the revenue here, given the decline in net revenues this quarter, what specific actions are being taken to drive top line growth into Q4?
So there's two elements of the revenue growth. One is the foreign exchange rate, which is very hard for us to influence. The other one is more the seasonality of Zubsolv. Zubsolv is sold in the US market, and we normally see the third quarter, we've seen that every year, is what we can call a light quarter in terms of sales to the wholesalers. Whereas the fourth quarter is coming with high expectations of inventory build. Right now, we are on a very low inventory with the wholesalers. We expect them to build up the inventory in parallel with quite stable demand. We saw basically a flat development quarter over quarter. Year to date, we are, compared to last year, our sales to wholesalers is on a -1%. So very stable sales to the wholesalers, and here I expect in the fourth quarter we'll see a good build on inventory with the wholesalers, which will lead to more sales.
And if we talk a little bit about the AmorphOX platform, how soon do you expect the platform to begin generating revenue streams, and what are the main development milestones ahead?
So the AmorphOX platform will actually, in one form, generate revenues already here in the fourth quarter, because our BARDA award will be recognized as revenue to the company. So we will get coverage for the majority of the expenses, both our internal and external development expenses, and they will award us. And the cost will come on our P&L under operating expenses, but the revenue or the compensation for those costs will come under revenues. Then we have another element, which is partnering and partnership agreements. We expect there will be partnerships coming in relatively soon. It could be this quarter or next quarter, which are small elements of cost sharing from different partners. But longer term, the real value is coming from partnering, where we get upfront payment, milestones, and royalty. And here the most advanced project is OX640, where we have been looking for a partner. It's been a little more challenging due to some external event with one product in the US market, but we still have very high faith into the product. OX124 is the next one that will generate revenues either in the shape of Orexo, and we're also looking into other ways of taking that product to the market to keep cost control. So I think there will be revenues in Q4 in the sense of cost coverage of activities, and next year I think there could be more partnering revenues coming in, or sales from OX124 very late in the year in that case.
And you mentioned the BARDA grant here, and it represents a significant potential in funding. Can you clarify maybe the timeline and key milestones needed to unlock the full 480 million SEK there?
So BARDA is working very much like a venture capital fund, where you're financing a framework, and then when you meet certain milestones, they will release part of the framework. But also with BARDA, there's this kind of assessment of the project every time, which is dual. So it's both Orexo and BARDA that could decide whether we will progress over the next gate. And here the development, very short in phases, is we will now have to do the first preclinical testing of the product. That means toxicology testing, formulation work. Next phase, that's when the next amount of money will be released. That's when we move into phase 1. And in a simple way, the next phase is then continued studies in humans, and that's the borderline between phase 1 and phase 2. That means that's when you go in and look at the dosing. Phase 1 is more from a toxicology, and then we're moving into phase 3. So we basically say every step, and when we get access to more funding, is when we make a normal development step that you see in the pharmaceutical industry. And we expect, and we've seen that for BARDA, is that if we are meeting the development milestone, it's more formality to get the next one open. Then the funding can go up and down depending on how the development plan looks like. So if we need to do more studies than anticipated, there can be more funding from BARDA. At the same time, if some of the studies turn out to be more streamlined than we expected, there would be less funding.
And we stay on funding here. With a cash and equivalence position of approximately 105 million SEK, how confident are you in maintaining efficient liquidity and to fund development activities going forward?
So on top of that, we also have 20 million of our own corporate bond that we could issue. So we have access to another 20 million on top of these 100 million. Then looking ahead, I know the fourth quarter has generally also been a very strong cash flow quarter, and that's depending on when we're paying rebates to payers in the US. And the fourth quarter is very light in that sense. And then the mid-quarters, Q2, Q3 is more heavy in terms of payments. So we expect the fourth quarter to help also on the cash position. Coming in next year, I think there is a need for us to look at priorities. So it's ICIPRI, for example, launch of ICIPRI. Are we going full-blown launch? That's quite costly. Or should we use those money to fund some of the development programs? And we have to remember, Zubsolv is generating very good revenues and income to the company. So optimizing the Zubsolv, the contribution to the company will release more funds to the company. And compared to many other development companies, the amount of money we get from Zubsolv is equal to what most companies would go out and make a share issue. So it is a prioritization game. But of course, there can be times when we, for one reason or the other, find this is when we really want to fund up a project, but we are not there at the moment.
To conclude the interview, could you maybe mention some key milestones looking ahead here for investors?
So I think there's a lot of stuff happening right now. You had some very big milestones in this quarter with our GLP-1 or semaglutide project and the OX390 BARDA funding. These projects will generate new data. So there will come new data, there will be more information that we can share around those projects. We believe in our pipeline and our other partnering activities. There are hopefully some of the partnering projects that we're working on right now with undisclosed partners that can become public. Some of the more public project, for example, with Abera, is also one company where we're working to see how can we progress with the vaccine development. So I think there will be a steady stream of news. Some of them will be higher, some of them will be a little smaller. I think from a pure overall value contribution, I think the GLP-1 is where we have the highest. It's the biggest worldwide market for pharmaceuticals and expected to grow immensely during the next years. So if we can find a pathway to make that relevant, that have a significant value contribution. And here, moving in, for example, into human studies, when we can share that and when we do that, that would be a major milestone for the company.
Thank you so much for the interview and thank you for joining us today, Nikolaj.
It was a pleasure to be here.